Welcome to the Motoring Podcast, your weekly discussion of motoring news. This is episode 658 on a Tuesday, the 18th of November, 2025. Hello, I'm Alan, and I'm all alone, and I've just realised I forgot to write the menu this week. Yes, we're going to talk about some stuff. I'm going to talk about some stuff. You're going to learn some stuff, and it's all going to be great. But first of all, we're going to start with a little bit of follow-up, and follow-up is about JLR, and it's JLR and the cyber attack, which sounds like some kind of pathetic Enid Blyton novel, but no, JLR has revealed the extent of the damage caused by the cyber attack on its bottom line, according to motortrader.com. As always, for every story, there is a link in the show notes because I've already written the show notes. So yes, where you can find out more about the stories that I'm going to tramp my way through this week. JLR's revenue for Q2, though, was £4.9 billion. That's 24% down on the equivalent period last year. Half one revenue was £11.5 billion, and that's down 16% year on year. Obviously, two different things coming in on there, one of which is that revenues were impacted by the cyber incident significantly, and also by the planned wind down of legacy Jaguar models. Obviously, they could plan for the Jaguar model one, that was always going to be the case, but the cyber incident, not so much. There were losses before tax in the last quarter. Losses before tax and exceptional items. So that was £485 million and £134 million in half one. That's down from a profit of £398 million and £1.1 billion, respectively, a year ago. The exceptional items, now, they came in at a whopping £238 million. 196 million of those are directly related to the cyber incident, and 42 million is related to the voluntary redundancy program that's ongoing. Other than that, JLR said it remained resilient, and it had an investment spend expected of about £18 billion over the next over the 5 years period from financial year 2024. So, of course, we're in financial year 2025 now. So, there was a statement put out by outgoing CEO Adrian Mardell. He said that JLR's performance in the second quarter of financial year 26 was we're in 26. Second quarter of financial year 26 was impacted by significant challenges, including a cyber incident that stopped our vehicle production in September and the impact of US tariffs. Of course, I forgot to mention those because there's so much US stuff these days. JLR has made strong progress in recovering its operations safely and at pace following the cyber incident. In our response, we prioritise client, retailer and supplier systems, and I'm pleased to confirm that production of all our luxury brands has resumed. The speed of recovery is testament to the resilience and hard work of our colleagues. And also he goes on to say that he's extremely grateful to all our people who have shown enormous commitment during this difficult time, and I want to thank clients, retailers, suppliers and everyone in the community connected with JLR for their support through this disruption. Obviously, he's retiring very soon after 35 years with the company. So yes, quite a lot in there. I personally am really quite surprised by the speed of recovery from JLR. I know it went on for a few weeks with no production, but it could have been even worse. It really could. And I'm pleased that they seem to be sort of have that behind them. Hopefully it doesn't happen again. New news now, though, and Stellantis. Stellantis has cancelled several raw material contracts. There were 3 that they had with companies called Novanix and Westwater Resources, and those are for anode graphite, and another with Alliance Nickel for nickel and cobalt. In the case of Alliance Nickel, the deal goes right back to a non-binding agreement for 2022, when they were ordering in advance, trying to get an idea of just how much they'd need, really, making sure there was demand there so that it was worth their while actually digging. Some of the others are a bit newer. From Novonix, they were saying that they've confirmed that deliveries from their plant in Riverside near Chattanooga in Tennessee were scheduled to begin on the 1st of January 2026. So the cancellation is at short notice. Novonix is saying that while it's disappointed with this decision, it remains focused on its deliveries for Panasonic and PowerCo and continuing to provide samples to 15 current and potential customers for battery and industrial applications. Yes. So, I mean, this is really to do with Stellantis North America and dialing right back its EV commitment, as we're seeing from most people who sell the majority of their vehicles in North America. The current administration does not like EVs. They are making it actively hard to build and to sell EVs, and so companies are deciding not to do it. As well as that, Stellantis in the US always had a relatively it had a weak to non-existent EV offering. You could get plug-in hybrid Jeeps, some of which have decided to start setting themselves on fire, so that's put a bit of a dampener on sales right at the moment. And of course, they had things like the Dodge Charger was meant to be electric, and they basically pulled that and shoved a V6 engine in the electric, or the platform that they designed to be electric. So lots of backpedaling from Stellantis there. As a result, I'm sure these suppliers saw that the writing was on the wall for these contracts. They were non-binding. They were generally non-binding anyway. So there we go. If anybody does need a load of anode graphite and nickel and cobalt going cheap, then I'm sure that you can. I'm sure that you can find it in North America right at the moment. Next up, the first in our sort of resuscitation stories. TVR. I cannot believe I'm talking about TVR. Really, I thought that it had twitched its last, let out a significant sigh, and we were never really going to talk about TVRs ever again. But it seems that they have been bought. TVR Automotive is merging with a company called Charge Holdings. TVR will become a subsidiary. And Charge Holdings is going to make delivery of the new Griffith to customers a first priority. Charge Holdings is a company that, according to its CEO, has a mission to bring together iconic performance brands and world-class manufacturing expertise. The strategic merger with TVR is set to unite heritage with innovation, creating a new leader in the low-volume luxury automotive sector. More details will be announced in 2026. It would be perfectly reasonable if one of you turned around to me and said, I'm going to put money on never hearing about this again. And I could believe that. This is actually a good, the link that's in the show is a great article to Evo, and a piece by Ethan Jupp and Stuart Gallagher, talking about the story of the Griffith, and of sort of TVR post Smolensky, and post Peter Wheeler, and all the various government funding that went into it and then had to be paid back again. People deciding that really we should make this electric, and then that really not working. And of course, it was all meant to be built on Gordon Murray developed iStream chassis, and it seems that the new owners and the license to do that seems to have expired. So even if you want to build the cars, and I don't know if they've got somewhere to build the cars, although Charge Holdings did buy Charge Cars, which we talked about a while ago. They were behind an all-carbon, all-electric 1960s Ford Mustang Evocation, which I think means copy almost, but not but just enough that Ford aren't going to, but just different enough that Ford aren't going to come after us. And yeah, it went into administration last year just before it was acquired. So, I mean, I'm sure Charge Holdings has lots and lots of money to pour into this, to invest in these, and it better have, basically. So let's see what happens. So TVR seems to be twitching again. I don't know if it'll ever become a thing. I hope it does, because I've always liked TVRs. I think it'd be cool, but been through this cycle a few times now, so I am losing a little bit of faith in that one. Let's move on from that and talk a little bit about used EV values. There's a thing, of course, people don't really buy cars as much these days. You generally get it on PCP, you lease them, you buy them through work on salary sacrifice if you've got that kind of job and work for that kind of scale of company. People don't go out and just say, right, I'm going to buy this car new and I'm going to pay it off. There are, exceptions. Hello. But generally that's because I'm not buying normal cars when I buy cars. But generally people do that. They will lease them rather than own a depreciating asset. And of course, somebody at some point has to actually own the depreciating asset, and that tends to be rental and leasing companies. And because people didn't necessarily calculate the residuals correctly at the time and just couldn't know. I mean, it was almost guesswork. 3-4 years ago, then the maths doesn't necessarily add up anymore. The rates that they were being leased for, and the residuals, it just doesn't. The maths isn't adding up for the rental and leasing companies. As a result, the rental and leasing companies are off to have a word with Downing Street to try to lobby for support for the used electric vehicle market. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think that the government is going to be handing out money left, right and centre on used cars whenever they're kind of refusing to hand it out on new cars. Or they're saying, well, we're paying it out on new cars, why should we be handing it out on used cars as well? So I don't know how they're going to do this. Basically, they're saying things like the CEO of the BVRLA, the British Vehicle Rental and Leasing Association, has pointed out the draconian fall in used car values, which also impacted hard on dealers. And, they're saying that falling values create short-term benefit for used EV buyers, but negatively impact finance houses and fleets. There is a bit of a mathematics problem here, and it was at the rental house and fleet end, really. I don't think they're going to get any money from the government. I don't think they really should get any from the government. I think they're going to have to work out how to solve this themselves. Which very neatly, it's almost as if I planned it, pulls us into the next story. So leasing company Zenith has decided that actually what it's going to do is it's going to try to add a product to its portfolio in order to try to stimulate a used EV market and try and make them more affordable for drivers without them necessarily losing the way that they have been after the 2 years, after the 3 years, and absorbing most of the depreciation in that period. So what they're doing is they're trying to extend their salary sacrifice product to include not just new cars, but also recently defleeted electric cars. So, retaining them and then making them available to essentially a used buyer, a used leaser, renting the same thing out twice, really, rather than just once and then getting rid of it. Doing this, it's hoping to stimulate the used EV market and make them more affordable to drivers as well. By doing this, Zen's reckon they can offer options with more affordable monthly rentals, and that of course means that the company car tax is lower too, because the taxable value is lower too. So it's quite interesting. Let's see what happens. I mean, I hope stuff like that. I would much rather there was stuff like this, and ways that, you know, and maybe there had to be some change and transformation within the leasing market and leasing companies, rather than just going back and asking for a government handout or some government help. You know, get on with it yourselves, folks. This seems like quite a good way. Andy Wolf, the commercial director of Zen's corporate division, said the offer has been designed based on driver feedback, and that all vehicles include a quality check, an AA safety inspection, a full service history, and comprehensive service and maintenance packages as well. So, you know, if that's something that's attractive to you or attractive to your company, then that's quite, I think that's quite a good idea. A good way to try to soften the impact of depreciation. More electric car talk. There's quite a lot of electric car talk, really, but that's kind of mostly what there is these days. And it's actually something which I'm surprised is news now, and that I would have thought had been happening for a while anyway. But Pogo Charge, which is an EV charger company, an EV charging company. They've actually partnered up with a company called IntelliPark. Now, IntelliPark does ANPR, or automatic number plate recognition systems, and ticketing systems. And they're putting this in place to basically point to EV charging spots and prevent icing, prevent people with petrol and diesel cars parking in those spaces, using them as parking spots, or just, you know, hilariously blocking EVs in or out. And of course it does this by then tickets. It'll be quite interesting is how that works if somebody leaves an EV in a parking space, plugged in or not plugged in, for an extended period of time, and how they deal with that. But you know, maybe it's, well, if there's a vehicle parked in a spot and there's no charge being drawn after a certain period, then maybe you get an overstay fine that way. This is being kicked off in Cwmbran in Wales, in their town centre. They have 16 ultra rapid 200 kilowatt charging bays, and they have problems with icing, with internal combustion engine cars parking in the spots, and so they're looking to do this and to solve the problem this way. So let's see how that goes. Last story before we get to Guilt Minute, and that's Amazon. Amazon has placed the largest ever, in inverted commas, electric truck order in the UK. I strongly suspect it's not largest ever in terms of volume, although 160 is a lot of vehicles, no matter what size it is. But I imagine that it's largest ever in terms of cost, because they've ordered 160 Mercedes-Benz e-Actros 600s. I've seen a few of these on the road. They do have, the ones I've seen generally have been white, and they do have a little bit of the Stormtrooper about them. But Amazon's ones, in the photo here, which shows some of the first on the road in the UK, are sort of dark grey Amazon colour scheme with the smiley arrow on them. So they're going to be used to transport products between Amazon's various logistics depots across the UK. And Amazon says that with a 500 kilometre range, the trucks are able to carry up to 22 metric tons per journey between fulfillment centres, sorting centres and delivery hubs. At all of the sites, Amazon has installed fast chargers to support all of this, right the way up to 360 kilowatt. yeah, this is good because these will filter into the used market in a few years' time. And this is exactly the kind of thing that an electric tractor unit, HGV tractor unit, is pretty much perfect for. You're going from hub to hub. In this case, of course, they're articulated lorries, so you can get there, you can drop the trailer and charge or top up or whatever, and then swap trailers. But you can charge, for 45 minutes, for however long it needs to be of your rest period before sort of moving on, essentially. So this is cool. This is this is the kind of thing that's needed, and this is the kind of thing that's going to expand the haulage industry, to expand the electrification of the haulage industry, even. Amazon is also, by the way, not just sticking with the big trucks on this. It's also introducing smaller vehicles, including 800 e-sprinters for home delivery and electric cargo bikes for cities like Manchester, Glasgow, and London. And in some London boroughs, you can get on-foot deliveries. That will fairly lower the carbon footprint. Literally. Yeah. Good stuff. Looking forward to seeing more of those. I was quite surprised to see to see these e-Actros this far north, to be honest, because it's beyond the sort of normal distribution hub type setup once you start to get into this part of Scotland. So yeah, I'd be interested to know where they're charging and stuff. But I suppose 500 kilometers, you're easily doing Edinburgh to Aberdeen and back and stuff. It's not so bad. Completely possible. Anyway, let's see what happens with all of that. As I said, though, that brings us to Guilt Minutes, a quick break in the show where we ask for a tad of financial support to keep the lights on and the hosting running. If you feel that the Motoring Podcast is worth a small consideration every month, then you can become a patron. Different levels of patron include different levels of commitment from us to you, including being able to watch the show recorded live. We have a small range of merchandise in our spring store, from stickers to mugs and t-shirts. If you don't have any spare cash, and we do completely understand, then you can help us by following for free from a podcast player to receive every show as they're released, and by liking and rating the show in whatever way your podcast supplier lets you. If you've done all of that, and some of you do, so thank you very much, then the last thing you can do is to recommend us to your friends or colleagues. Thank you to those who do, by the way. Always appreciate it. As you'd expect, new car news is up next, and we have news of a new Bentley. The new 666 horsepower Continental GT Supersports is the lightest Bentley for 85 years. Okay. It weighs less than 2 tons. And that's despite it having the new bigger turbos on its twin turbocharged V8 engine. As it probably won't be a surprise, you do have to sacrifice some things to get your Bentley to weigh under 2 tons these days. So some of the things that have gone are the front drive shafts. So it is only rear-wheel drive. Any sort of plug-in hybrid hardware, that's all gone. You're not hybrid anymore, mate. And things like rear seats as well. You do still retain electric seats, by the way. You still get 11-way electric sort of bucket seats. So there's something. But yeah. And you don't get any wood either. That's all been replaced with carbon fibre too. That said, if you want these things back again, then Bentley will, they'll force themselves to refit them for you via their Milner division. So, you can have wood and you can have the seats if you want. But generally, the 300,000-ish pounds that this will cost you will just that's your starting point if you want to add things back in again. So let's talk about some of the numbers. So the 4-litre V8 gets larger turbos, a new crankshaft, resulting in the 666 horsepower and 590 pound-feet of torque. That runs through an 8-speed dual-clutch transmission, and Supersports can get from 0 to 62 miles an hour in 3.7 seconds and on to 192 miles an hour. You also get carbon fiber aero kit, fixed rear wing. That generates more than 300 kilos in downforce. You get carbon ceramic brakes, 22-inch Ford Manti alloy wheels, and an Akrapovic titanium exhaust as well. Not to mention Pirelli Trofeo RS tyres too. If that floats your boat, then it will be on sale and available from March 2026. I don't know that I'd choose the sort of satin black of the one in the press photos. I'd really quite like to see it in a different colour. But that's not really going to be too much of a challenge overall. I don't foresee me being able to pop out and purchase one of these for my birthday. So I shall stop worrying about that particular problem. Another new car news item that was mentioned this week that came up is that Maserati and Alfa Romeo are going to twin up to create what they're describing as few off. So not one off, or two off, but a few off flagship models as part of their new bespoke program, which is called Bottega Furoseri. Probably pronounced correctly with an Italian accent. The idea is that this is similar to the just mentioned Mulliner type setup from Bentley, or Ad Personam, which is a Lamborghini's equivalent. And the idea is that this will enable buyers to customize their purchase and turn their car into a unique model, or just spec it the way they want it. The same new Maserati and Alfa Romeo arm, which I'm not going to try and pronounce again, is also going to become the cradle of high-emotion vehicles that push the boundaries. So this is going to be successors to things like the Alfa 33 Stradale, the Maserati MC20 MC Extrema, as well as any new sort of range-topping, cool halo models that's going to go alongside them. It'll be interesting to see how this works, especially as this program is also going to incorporate the Maserati Corsa racing team, which will be developing new powertrains, aerodynamic packs, and chassis designs. So, yes, let's see what happens there. That's going to be quite interesting. Looking forward to seeing what the next creation is. I thought the Alfa 33 Stradale is pretty cool. Not nearly as gorgeous and pure as the original, but it wasn't really designed as a road car first. But yeah, that sort of thing. Let's see what happens there and keep an eye on it. Last bit of new car news is another quick go get the defibrillator out type story. And not one that I was expecting. I don't know. Did I expect to be talking about this less than TVR being revised? Probably did, actually. And that's news that Mitsubishi will be returning to the UK market next year. When Mitsubishi Motors, what was originally called car company, closed when Mitsubishi said they weren't selling to the UK anymore a couple of years ago, then International Motors, the importers of GWM, Isuzu, Subaru, and Xpeng cars to the UK, they took over the parts distribution, so that if you owned a Mitsubishi, you could still get bits for it. They're now saying that they're going to be introducing customer deliveries in summer 2026, despite the fact they're not really saying what models they're going to send to and sell in the UK. Autocar goes on to suggest that likely candidates include the Eclipse Cross, which is a Renault Scenic EV that's been restyled. Well, that's got to be better than its predecessor. And the Outlander plug-in hybrid SUV, its predecessor being basically the only model that Mitsubishi really managed to sell in the UK for the few years before they left. Interesting thing there is that, of course, that's just been announced in the US as the Nissan Rogue plug-in hybrid, which is different from previous Rogues. Previous Rogues were always the Nissan X-Trail from over here. I say always. I think the last two generations before that they were different models. Yeah, I don't know. Mitsubishi has a really shaky product offering elsewhere right at the minute. I don't know if this is... I'll be interested to see how they can come up with something which is going to be vaguely competitive when it hits the market. Especially as Mitsubishi will be entering, I would imagine, at a price point which puts them against an awful lot of the new Chinese brands. And maybe the fact that Mitsubishi is recognized, people know the name, they think that that's how they can stand out. Maybe they've decided that we've got a tolerance for poorer quality vehicles, or less refined vehicles, let's just say, now than maybe we did before. But I just think this seems a very strange decision. Anyway, we'll see what, as I keep saying this week, we'll see what happens. Yeah, I'm curious. Oh, by the way, they're going to be establishing new dealerships supposedly to complement the existing network of the 100 Mitsubishi after-sales garages that there are across the UK. The after-sales garages generally are selling you Isuzus and possibly Subarus. There's a point, actually. I wonder if they'll bring back the L200. Sorry, tacking that on to the end there, because I was trying to think what had really sold for Mitsubishi, and of course the L200 and the Outlander. Definitely not the Mirage though. Don't bring that back. Just throw it to the bottom of the sea. Points of interest then. This week's lunchtime read. I don't know. Have we been lazy? Possibly. But this is the third part of Patrick Lecompt's La DS series for Driven to Write, talking about the evolution, the introduction of the Citroen DS, and how it came to be, and what it was meant to be at various points, and then what it ended up as, and the characters behind it as well. So again, part 3 of this, I just think this is a fantastic series. I'm really enjoying it. So yeah, I'm gonna recommend that you enjoy it too. List of the week this week is from Haggerty. It's by Ant Ingram, and it's 10 modern classics that can't wait for winter. Now, as you scroll through this, don't judge it by the pictures, all right? I have a funny feeling the picture editor should be shot, but the words are really, really good. You'll know what I mean about the pictures whenever you see the ones that are wrong. There are only 10 in this list. I would love to talk about loads of these. I really, really would. And there are some great options for those of us who love plastic cladding. And as such, I'm going to choose one of them. I'm going to choose the 10th one on the list, and I'm going to choose the Isuzu Veicross. Slightly worried, though, I am that it's described as a modern classic these days. Obviously, I owned an Isuzu Veicross, a Japanese one. The one pictured here is an American model in America. But yeah, I owned one for 9 years, and it was really pretty cool, and really loved winter. It just didn't even really notice the snow. You shoved the torque on demand into into sort of 4 high, and it would just drive over whatever. I mean, it just generally drove over whatever anyway. But yeah, it was particularly good when it came to wintertime, and comfortable and smooth and lovely as well. Just check for rust. And vacuum lines as well. Check the vacuum lines too. But no, super cool. There's some great options in the rest of that. Not all of them 4-wheel drives, not all of them SUVs either. So do have a little bit of a look and have a bit of a read there. I can't believe that's already bringing me to the end finally, but that is the case, I'm afraid. And this week's out and finally is one of Andrew's favourites, and it is the final part of the C90 adventures, driving 650 miles in a mini Jeep. It's no more sensible than it was at the start of all of this. It's still completely bat poo. But do go have a watch, settle down, 40 minutes of mindless amusement, and just Utah and Nevada and all of these parts of that West. It's the area of the US that I really, really wanted to get to, and I never quite managed because it's just stunning out there. It's absolutely gorgeous. And, you know, when you're just on dirt trails and all the miles that Ed's covering, it's very cool. So do please have a little bit of a watch of that and just chill out and enjoy it. So yeah, it's super cool. That, I fear, is it this week. Andrew may be back next week. I hope so. But yeah, if he isn't, then sorry, folks, it's me again. But yeah, I feel that for all of you, it breaks it up when there's two different, slightly adenoidal voices chatting away rather than just one of us. Anyway, don't forget, now and next week, you can give us any feedback, share your thoughts of the show at motoringpodcast.com on Blue Sky, at Motoring Podcast on Instagram and Facebook, and on the contact page of www.motoringpodcast.com, the hub of all our activities. Remember, you can support us financially via Patreon. Similarly, watching or listening to the podcast via YouTube does help us on the path towards monetization on that particular platform. But please leave a review and rating on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or however your podcast app lets you do such a thing. Best way to get in touch with Andrew is to search for Cracked Windscreen on Blue Sky, or under his real name on LinkedIn, because he enjoys that kind of stuff. I don't know. It just frustrates me. Best way to get in touch with me, well, you can use my real name on LinkedIn, actually. You will find me there, but much, much better than that is to use Blue Sky, where I'm at AJP Bradley, that's BRADLEY.bsky.social. We'll be back very soon, but until then, I've been Alan Bradley. The empty voice that you've been missing has been Andrew Close, and safe motoring.